Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wrestling Nerdcast on the Angry Marks Podcast Network with your host, Will Huckaby and Mika Villas.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Once again, it's that time of the week. We're actually on time this week. We're actually doing this on a Tuesday night as we usually do it. So I'll be out there Tuesday night, Wednesday morning for you guys. But anyway, it's time for the Wrestling Nerdcast. As usual, this is a fan listened and supported podcast. So if you like what you hear, you love us bringing on guests and stuff to talk about all the things that's wrestling. And in the case of last week's episode, some things not really wrestling related. Be sure to support us at Patreon. That's right, Patreon.com/the Wrestling Nerdcast. As usual, I'm your host, the AIWF World Heavyweight Champion, the World Wrestling Grand Prix Champion, the National Syndicate Wrestling Unified Georgia Wrestling Champion, the Disrespectful Intellectual, the Southern Gentleman, the Mid-Atlantic Bully, the Morning Star, the Incredible Huck, Will Huck. Unfortunately, this week, Mika, my co-host Mika, will not be on with us. She's off on location doing some cool, backstage wrestling things. She's the office over there at Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. So there's a lot of shakeups going on in Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment after this past week's show. So she's not going to be on the show this week, but it's okay because I had an amazing, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something, amazing week. As most of you know, if you listen to this show, you've been a listener of this show for a while, and you know that because of Hurricane Florence, I had lost my house and a lot of other things, a lot of possessions and stuff due to Hurricane Florence. So I'm in the process of relocating. You also know that I've been looking at picking up residence in the great city of Atlanta and Georgia. So I went down this weekend and checked out the house. Me and my wife and my oldest son went down, checked out the house, checked out the area. Loved everything that we saw. Can't wait to actually move in there the next upcoming weeks and become a resident of Georgia. This is pretty cool. Like I said, it's a really nice area where we're living at. As a kid from the projects, never thought that I would actually be living in the suburbs. But look at me 38 years later, because of wrestling and a bunch of other really positive decisions I've made in my life. I'm now moving to the suburbs, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, suburbs, like white picket fences and grass cut all the time and people waving at you. And there's a welcoming committee where people bring you like food and shit. I'm looking forward to it. Sunday, Sunday, Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment, Jesus, you talking about a crazy show. Debuted in Jonesboro, Georgia at Furnace 41. Crazy show. I was in a six-man scramble match. I'm starting to become the king of the six-man scramble matches. There was a lot of young guys in there. But it was cool. Got the win. Might have, there was some other things, a lot of other things that happened during the match I don't really want to talk about, a lot of backstage things. Overall, it was a really good match for me. And it was a great show. Rufus Lala, young wrestling talent and stuff, 15-year vet from Texas, made the trek to Atlanta to try to earn her a spot. She worked Mae Young Classic participant Zeta Zhang in a hellacious female match, where it was probably the second stiffest lariat of the night was in that match. And then, they had the Carney teaming up with the Hierarchy against Chip Day and his group of guys and stuff. And that was a really good match. That was the main event. But for me, the match of the night was Joe Black versus Georgia wrestling star Tyson Dean. A lot of people consider Tyson the measuring stick of professional wrestling in Georgia now that Kyle Matthews has retired. Him and Joe had a hellacious match, very stiff match and stuff, which the match ended, which was literally stiffest clothesline, the stiffest lariat I've since probably Stan Hansen. It was so brutal. I thought I was the witness and an accessory to it. It was just hellacious. I wish people could have been there. But you can be. The next show is November 11th, back at the Opera Museum in downtown Atlanta. If you haven't checked out an AWE show, go check it out. Now, before I get to tonight's guest, first of all, I'd like to say a huge thank you to our network, to the Engelmart's Podcast Network. Thank you once again for letting this podcast and myself and Mika be on the network. Be sure to download this episode on iTunes or go check us out on YouTube. Look up the Wrestling Nerdcast. Our amazing producer, CW, just uploaded like 15 episodes of this podcast. So if you're kind of behind on, the Wrestling Nerdcast, you can go on YouTube and just check out our entire back catalog for like the last, 80 episodes maybe. I think we're like episode 80. I'm not really sure. I just do these people. I'm sorry. As usual, also a big, huge shout out to our sponsors, Indie Customs. Check them out on Facebook. Check them out on Twitter at Indie Customs. Our good friends at Pro Wrestling World on Facebook for all of your pro wrestling gossip of who's doing what, where, when, why, and how. And you can connect with other like-minded wrestling fans, not only in America, but around the world. And last but not least, Once you know all this stuff on the computer, check out our good friends at Behavior Driven for all of your computer needs, I guess. If you have like a computer and it's slow, check them out. They can help you clean that stuff up. Also, they also do graphic design work. They also, can build you, what them kids call it, website. You can get like a website or an app or all the other cool shit. Check out our friends at Behavior Driven. I think I got all that stuff out the way. Anyway, tonight's guest. I'm kind of glad that Mika's not on this show because I'm feeling kind of selfish tonight. Tonight's guest is a very close friend of mine. I've known this gentleman for a while. It's really funny how we actually met. But if you're not a Southern wrestling fan, I don't think you actually understand how, I guess, awestruck I am right now, how happy I am to have this gentleman on the podcast. His list of accomplishments are amazing, but more than his list of accomplishments and what he's done in wrestling, the shit that he's done outside of wrestling. Let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Your favorite rock star, your favorite rapper dreams of living the life like tonight's guest. He is the last legitimate AWA World Heavyweight Champion. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Vern Gogner, AWA. He is the last ever legitimate AWA World Heavyweight Champion. He is an NWA Mid-America NWA Mid-America Tag Team Champion, CWA TV Champ, CWA World Champ, a four-time Ohio Valley Wrestling Tag Team Champion, the original Jim Crockett Smoky Mountain TV Champion. He is a Smoky Mountain Tag Team Champion with a good friend of mine, Bo Crockett. He is a writer, a producer. He's a director, an editor. He does commentary. He owns a production company. He owns an entertainment company from the great city of Oak Hill in West by God, Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, my mentor, and one of the craziest motherfuckers I've ever met in professional wrestling, the one, the only, Brian Logan. What's up, man?
Hey, Huck. How are you doing, man? What an intro. Man, that was incredible. I didn't realize I'd done all those things.
Man, what is it, 25 years, man? There's a lot of things you can do in 25 years.
Yeah, I just try to stay busy and try to hustle and keep things going, man. Apparently, I don't get a lot of sleep with all as busy as I am, but yeah, I just try to work every day, man.
Man, I tell you what, man, you've done a great job. For people that know and have known you for years, when I first met you, but even before I met you, I'd heard the name Brian Logan. And guys was like, hey, besides Scotty McKeever, Brian Logan's probably one of the best wrestlers to come out of West Virginia, but he had so many issues. He had his deeds, but like every great person in history, like you've taken, even though you've had a very rough start, you found a way to reinvent yourself and make a second comeback. And that's something that I think that people, not just people in wrestling, but people in general love a good comeback story. And you are the poster child of comeback.
Well, when everything happened and went down the way it did with the Armory event, I almost destroyed my career by making a bad choice, but I was sitting there and I was thinking, man, I don't want my whole life to be defined by one mistake that I made, and I've just tried really hard to reinvent my reputation, reinvent my name, and get my brand out there, and, heck, we're going on, 14 years later or something like that, maybe a little longer. And I've been lucky.
I'll tell you what, man, luck does not describe just your life. Now, I'm not talking about just rest, just your life. I mean, shot 5 times, been to prison, the aforementioned Armory incident stuff. For a lot of people, that would have been it. That would have been their entire life dead and gone, man. There's no coming back from that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the funny thing is after I got shot, my dad was heavily on drugs and decided he was going to go on a shooting spree one night, and I caught most bullets and, protected my mom from being shot, thank God. I thought that was going to keep me from going to jail, but it didn't, and I ended up going to jail before I was even killed gunshot. But when I got out of jail, I realized that I needed to, and I had no skill other than what I had learned from the wrestling business. So I figured I was done with wrestling, that I had my run, and then I realized, wow, I've got to go out there and make some money so I can put some groceries on the table. And everything just kind of snowballed from there to where I'm at now.
Now let's get beforehand because like you're the last legitimate AWA World Heavyweight Champion, beating the living legend Larry Zbyszko and stuff. And I don't know if people really recognize that. People realize when they talk to you that you are a legitimate part of history. What was your initial reaction right after you won that title?
Well, it was very surreal because I had worked my whole career to become a world champion, and I wanted to be, hopefully, to become a legit world champion. And I realized very quickly, you hear an interview over the years in the territory days of, oh, now you're the hunted. You're not just hunting the belt, you're the hunted. And I won the belt and went straight to an after party autograph signing thing. And I had to get up the next morning and make the first title defense. And I realized, oh, wow, now I'm the guy. And now I have to go and make all these towns. I suddenly had this schedule and was like, whoa, this is a whole different piece of business than like yesterday. So I was in the business 16 years and won the belt. And then like literally less than 12 hours later, I'm like, oh, this kind of picked up a little bit. So it was very surreal because the moment hadn't caught up with me, but yet I was already having to go to another promotion that I hadn't been to and defend the belt, and it was a shock, but it hadn't sunk in. But a couple of weeks later, it finally sunk in that the hard work had paid off, and that I was going to go down in history with the AWA, which is something I grew up on. I mean, I grew up getting out of middle school, riding the bus home, and coming in, and AWA was on at 4:30 on ESPN, so I had watched all these guys, and it was just very brief that all of a sudden I was the guy.
Now let me ask you a question, because I'm the AIWF World Champion, and in today's wrestling, there's nowhere near as many like legitimate tough guys and shooters and stuff as there was in the business, 15 years ago when you became the World Champion. The first couple of title defenses, were you worried that they were going to try to put you in the ring with a legitimate shooter or a hooker or something and just try to get that title off of you so that they could get the rub?
Well, the very first one, I wasn't so much worried about it because my referee was there, so I had the referee. The following week, I was down in East Tennessee, and even though those guys were my buddies, you never know with stuff like that. So, yes, I learned real quick that long 2 counts became like a 1 count just to be safe, because that's always in the back of your mind of who's gonna try to do that real quick. And in East Tennessee, there's a bunch of guys at that time, and still is, that could not really shoot on you and hurt you, but shoot on you enough to catch you and pin you real quick, and then all that hard work's out the window.
Exactly. So like you came in at the last of the territory day, worked at Smoky Mountain, worked at OVW with a lot of current WWE stars and legend stuff. What was it like, being there? Because I've seen, I've watched probably every Smoky Mountain TV taping there is. What was it like coming in Smoky Mountain, young, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, good-looking young guy, and working with, being in locker rooms with the Rock and Roll Express when they were in their prime, with a very young and controversial New Jack and Dirty White Boy, et cetera, et cetera?
Well, I was so lucky. In 1992, I graduated and went to a small college in West Virginia, Alderson Bross. I went up there to play baseball. But I ended up meeting Tim Horner during that winter, and I'm at the dorm, and I get a phone call, and basically Tim Horner says, we want to offer you a contract. So I never actually made it ring to get on the baseball field because I had already signed my contract and left college and came down. And I had watched and so I had watched wrestling my whole life, and I knew it was not, I guess, completely 100% legitimate, but I didn't know how it worked. So this is way pre-internet. So you hear people say, this and that about the wrestling business, but it wasn't like you could just Google it and they could tell you how you actually do a move. So I remember going in, Tim Horner took me to the train center, and which was actually just a gym, and it was the racquetball court underneath the gym. And he shuts the door, and I was a big kid. I was about 240. I played sports my whole life, and I come from a rough town in Oak Hill, and I had legitimately fought men and been in, I started going to bars when I was 15. You could do that there. So I'd been in bar fights. So I was still a kid, but I was I considered myself I could handle myself. But here were my heroes, and these guys were in shape, and everybody was gassed up. So we go in the into the racquetball court. He shuts the door, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this could be bad. And we locked up the first time, and he showed me how it was done. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, I'm gonna do pretty good at this. Showed me that, oh, hey, you don't really grab the guy like that. You don't grab him really hard. You kind of work with the guy. And I thought, wow, okay. So those Smoky Mountain guys, so good to take a 17-year-old kid and just teach him Dirty White Boy, Chase Smothers, New Jack, all these guys took their time to say, hey, this is the right way to do it. And then they would tell me about all these road stories and stuff, riding the towns, and I loved it. I just soaked up every bit of it. But the most important thing back then was the territory system was still around. So once you had a job, if they were done with you, they sent you somewhere else. So once I finished up with Smoky Mountain, they sent me to Memphis to work for Lawler. Mm-hmm. So I worked the first 2 years without even knowing what an outlaw show was, because I was just working territory. So, and there at the end of my second year, I was working Memphis Monday through Wednesday, and then Smoky Mountain Thursday through Sunday. And so it was just a great group of guys. And, Mike Samples out in Memphis was really good to me. And, Lawler was very kind to me. And I was lucky enough that the least experienced guy that I was around in the business had been in the business for 14 years. So I was learning something every day about our business, and it really paid off. And I'm so thankful for those guys that took their time, because, nowadays you don't have that. You got a guy that was trained by this guy who was trained by that guy who may have been in the business for 10 minutes. So it's like making a copy off of a copy off of a copy. It gets graded by the time you get to watch. So I think guys just nowadays can't even appreciate what it's like to have all these veterans take an interest in helping you, hone your craft. And, Jim Cornette taught me how the office was run. I was 18 years old and going to the office every day, learning how the business end worked. And then Tim Warner was teaching me how to wrestle.
That's something that you would hear a lot of guys say. It's like, I was my first year in the business, or first 2 years in the business, I was going to office meetings, sitting in on booking stuff. Did you always have an interest in how the business worked, or did you always think that you was going to be in the position that you were in now?
No, I loved everything about wrestling. Wrestling was my escape as a kid because of everything that was going on in Oak Hill at the time. So I always knew that wrestling was sort of like my family. So anytime I could turn on wrestling, it didn't matter what was going on in the town, what politics, or, if my dad was sick, or if he was doing drugs, or whatever, I could always escape. And then once I got in the wrestling business, I just loved it so much. I found myself in positions, like I remember my first TV booking meeting, I was asked to sit in. It was Eddie Gilbert, Jim Ross, Jim Cornette, Dutch Mantell, myself, and Mark Curtis. And they were like, now don't say anything, just sit there and learn. But, that's a hell of a room to be sitting there listening to these guys explain how TV works,
So you've had it on both sides, because you got to sit on the book committee, and then you're in the ring with some of the best workers to ever lace to a pair of boots. Just the amount of, I feel like I've never asked you this, and I've always wanted. Out of everybody you've been in the locker room with, like who is the scariest? Like, who are you really afraid? Like, keeping one eye on, like, this person could snap, because you've been in the locker room with some of the most legitimate guys in the business. Steiners, Tracy, New Jack, who everybody knows is down and out, could snap at any minute. Down there in Memphis, like, who was probably the one person that you said you always kept an eye on because you were kind of afraid?
Well, when I was in WCW, I worked with Vader on 14 tapings in a row, and they just kept changing my part.
Who did you piss off?
What's that?
I said, who did you piss off?
I don't know. And I got Harlem Heat right after that. So I had 28 straight weeks of getting annihilated. But Leon was a good guy, but he didn't know his own strength. So I always kept an eye on him because I didn't want him to hurt me. Because I was at that time I was about 220. He could just throw me like a lawn dart. I remember it's funny. I was scared to death of the Moondog because they were annihilating jobbers, and of course I got to be really good friends with Larry Latham and realized that that. Pun intended, they really were puppy dogs. They were great guys. But I would be sitting out before I had a match, ringing the bell or working the sound system, and they would just be just destroying these jobbers. And I'm like, gosh, I got to get in there and do this next. So there were a lot of guys that you watched. I do remember a little later on, though, I wasn't afraid of him, but I sort of was. We were at Rising Sun Casino for OVW, and me and BJ Payne were wrestling Brock Lesnar and Shelton Benjamin. And for some reason, Brock had just decided he was going to do what he wanted to do. And where I was a veteran, I knew Jimmy was going to yell at me, and I knew the match wasn't that good. So BJ tags me in, and I walk right up to Brock, and I punch him right in the mouth as hard as I can.
What?
And of course,
Pause. You hold on. We talk about former WWE champion, like UFC heavyweight champion Brock Lesnar.
Yes, because I would have rather got murdered by Brock Lesnar than yelled at for that. So BJ tags me. I walk right in. I hit him as hard as I can. It doesn't even faze him. And I said, I'm the heel. I'll call the match. From now on, you're doing what I wanted. And I thought to myself, this guy is killed me. I mean, this is it. He's going to break my neck, and I'm dead. But he settled down, and he had a good match. And then I was so nervous afterwards, thinking this guy's going to kill me. I went straight to the bar. I had the Damien outfit and the makeup and everything on, went straight to the bar and got a drink. And they ended up coming in there later and sat down and bought me beer and said, we're sorry. We didn't know what we were doing. We were green. Can you explain what we did wrong? And I thought to myself, thank God.
Man, you thought somebody dodged a bullet because, everybody's seen that clip of, him and Bob Holly and stuff where he broke Bob Holly's neck. That could have been you, man.
Yeah. Oh, I know he could have. But I also that Jim Cornette saw me as being in charge of the match, and that, they were going to get fussed at, but I was going to get reprimanded. So I knew at least if I went in there, I could say, well, I tried, But, I really kind of took my life in my own hands on that one.
You are Now, one thing I love about you is that you're such a great magnet. As much as people love you and stuff when you're a baby face, like as a heel is where you really shine. Ladies and gentlemen, like I got a chance to work with Brian and stuff in a small town in Tennessee, and literally we went 20 minutes and didn't really do jack shit. And it was so easy. Just from like a few simple words, a few simple looks, you was able to get that crowd so pissed off at you. What is your theory? Because I know I talk a lot about to these young guys. When I get an opportunity, I tell them what my opinion about what makes somebody a great heel and the psychology of a great heel. While I got you on this podcast, I want to sit underneath the learning tree and get your opinion of what makes somebody a great heel and what the psychology of being a heel is.
Well, the basis of wrestling is cliche. After World War II, when television was invented, it was the impending threat of the foreign people coming in. Everybody was scared to death that the Nazis or the Japanese people were going to take over our way of life. So everybody was turned up cliche of what they were. So you had cowboys, you had Indians, you had Nazis, you had good-looking young all-American boys or whatever. So that's what the business has been, focused. So when I go to the ring as a heel, I try to get into the mindset of the people. The people has to act vicariously through us, meaning the heel has to piss them off enough so that when the babyface makes a comeback and hits him, they really think it's them. And that's what sells tickets. So in our end, it's a small East Tennessee town in the middle of the woods. They've got a big white guy that's going to run his mouth against a black babyface. Well, we all know, unfortunately, that certain rural areas are not as, diverse as they really ought to be. So
Yes.
they're going to feel guilty by me pointing out in them, hey, I'm just like you. How could you cheer for this guy? He's not like you. I'm more like you. This guy, you wouldn't let your daughters go out.
Oh.
And then they start feeling bad because they're embarrassed, because that's a reflection of them. And that's something they hate about themselves. So finally, they have to take your side or admit that they're racist. And we all know they ain't going to do that. So by being the super, racist guy of calling you, and not saying, hey, you don't want to come right out and say, hey, cheer for me, don't cheer for the black guy. You want to make them feel bad and get those little digs in that are universe. And you played the part right. You took your time, and when it was time to hit me, you hit me and knocked the piss out of me. And that's what that's what the people wanted. They wanted the guy to shut up because he's a mirror image of them. And that works on every level, not just with the race thing, but it works like, the big fat guy versus the little skinny guy. You have to get into the mindset of what will embarrass the people, and on a real human level. You have to make them be ashamed of what you're pointing out so that they get behind the other guy, so the other guy can beat the hell out of you and shut you up.
Now, how did that work when you went to Puerto Rico? Because I've heard stories, we've all heard stories of how violent the Puerto Rican crowd can be. And I got a taste of that earlier this year. I did a Lucha Libre show down in Atlanta. And got so much from this Hispanic crowd to where, I literally got hit in the face with a Corona bottle. As cliche as that sounds, a fan hit me dead in the face with a Corona bottle. So how was that like for you actually going to Puerto Rico as a heel and as a...
Okay, well, with the Puerto Rican territory, where obviously they're heroes, local Puerto Rican, they've everybody and everything over there. I came out there, and I was in good shape, but I wasn't that big, again, about 2/3. But I had long blonde hair and blue eyes, and it's a Catholic nation. So we all know that the Catholic picture of Jesus is not what Jesus would really look like. So it's the Anglo-Saxon version, what, the church pictures Jesus. So when I got on the interviews down there, I said, I see how you people look at me when I walk down the street with my blonde hair and my blue eyes, and you know that I'm not like, and you do part when I walk because you should part, because I'm so much better than you guys. I have this beautiful long blonde hair that's so straight. You guys don't have that, and I have beautiful blue eyes, and you guys don't have that, and you guys should come out and adore me. Well, they started calling me Barbie. So I had them because I was pointing out the differences between myself and them in a condescending way. And of course, the promotion put me with Sangre Taena, who was basically the Boricua symbol of the Puerto Rican farmer. He actually came to the ring with Shetty, which that could have went either way. But he had like the capri pants that you wore in the fields when you cut down the sugar cane, and he had the big straw hat and all that. So they matched it up perfectly that I was challenging the way the world saw them versus how they saw them. And it worked very, very well. And then once I got done with him, then I got a classic luchador black boy who had been around for a while, and he was able to kick it up a notch and defend the Puerto Rican people against this American scourge that was coming in, making them feel bad about themselves. And it worked, and it got over pretty well. And they ended up putting the girls with us, and we did the mock wedding on TV, and that was pretty cool. So we just took the differences and turned it up super high. Jerry Jarrett told me one time. He said, wrestling is all about personal vendettas, personal ish, whether it's differences or whether it's, fighting over a watch or something to where you can make it to where the person at home can go, okay, that's personal. between those two guys. They'll tune in and watch. And I've just been really good at getting into the psyche of people and having the crazy storylines that I don't think that people touch anymore because everybody's so PC. But they forget wrestling's supposed to be like that. You know, we're supposed to watch all of our things that we go through in life acted out on the screen there so that we can deal with them better. And we don't feel, you know, we can be entertained by this. Okay, when was the last time a cowboy fought an Indian? But we all know that supposedly cowboys just don't get along. So you can get into that because you know the basic knowledge of, okay, cowboys don't like Indians, Indians don't like cowboys. And then you just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, we've always heard the phrase that that wrestling is a reflection of society. Whatever's going on in society at that time, you'll probably see a storyline about that.
Absolutely. You know, and it's the whole thing of, you know, comedy is tragedy plus time. It's wrestling is pop culture plus just a little bit time later. I mean, you know, you don't want to do a September 11th storyline on September 12th, but you might want to do that 2 years later. You know.
Yeah, that would be such bad timing. Oh,
yeah,
that would be such bad time. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna do a 9/11 storyline, September 13th. So what do you watch pro wrestling now? Like, what's your opinion about the current state of professional wrestling? Do you watch it? Do you keep up with it?
Yes, I watch what I like, and I watch it to be entertained, and I watch certain things to see how the business goes. I watched All In because it was a happening, and I didn't think that I was going to see anything spectacular, and I was pleasantly surprised because I thought All In was incredible. I thought it was awesome. I thought it was good business, very entertaining, and I think we're living in some great times now to where there is a divider line between independent wrestling and WWE, and it's okay. I just watched the 70th anniversary of the NWA this past Sunday, and I thought the main event was laid out perfectly, and despite the audio problems.
There was a lot of people who didn't like it, but there was a lot of people who were disappointed that Cody dropped the title so quick.
Oh, I think that's perfect because it's what his dad did. He didn't need to have that for that long. His dad never. He made the title, but through Cornette's commentary, you know, it was about the people challenging for it. And so, you know, Nick is now able to go and defend it on all these independent shows. Cody can go to Japan, but it makes the title better because Cody is the challenger and at any moment could be the champion. And I think it went very well. I love Jazz. I mean, that's an OVW girl. She's a monster. I love her work. I think the women are better than they've ever been and the most entertaining they've ever been. And the Japan stuff, I think, is coming down to a level that Americans can understand. And I think we're living in a special time that's, you know, very good for the industry as a whole. Now, with that said, do I think everybody should run shows? No. But I think people who have a clue, I don't think everybody should go out and run every week. But I think the people who do have a wrestling business should continue doing what they're doing.
I was going to ask you, what was your thought about independent bookers and stuff, and all the every time you turn around, there's a new independent show popping up. You know, you can legitimately wrestle probably 5 to 6 days a week now. Is that a good thing or a bad for you? What do you think?
Well, I think it's a good thing. But here's the thing. Okay, I got two opinions here. Number one, you hear guys like Cornette and some of these old guys saying, yeah, well, we sold out 10,000 seats arenas every night. They did. And the reason they can't do that now is because all the ticket buying fans are running their own wrestling show and they think they're too cool for school and can't go and have shows. I mean, can't go and pay to shows and stuff like that when, you know, if it wasn't for high spots, they really wouldn't even be in the business because they couldn't buy their, you know. And I think that's part of the problem. But it is good for the boys like us who need extra work because you can never go wrong with ring time. But here's what I've been saying on podcasts for the past couple of years. The number one problem with independent wrestling is they don't understand what the industry is about. And I put a lot of research and a lot of time into this. Ticket sales is not the industry end-all be-all. Now, I know somebody somewhere is sitting going, well, how are we going to have a show if we don't have
I was about to say, you got to piss somebody off, Brian. I told them ticket sales is not the end-all be-all because this is a business, man. It's all about money. It's, you know, Vince will be the first one to tell you it's all about that bottom line.
Okay, I agree, and nobody's more about money than I am. But we're living in the industry where, let's say, any town America, you go and run that show and you sell, let's just say you sell 1,000 tickets, and that's being awful generous because I don't know anybody that's that. You've sold that show one time to those 1,000 people. That's it. They're gone. You're never going to see them again if you go to another town. But if videotape that, you have a good distribution center, and you sell that post-market, there's 1 billion other people around the world that can buy that. And not only can you sell it the night that the show is occurring, you can sell that indefinitely for 10 years, 20 years, whenever the new person discovers it. So, yes, you have to have fans in the arena, but the fans are part of the product now. And with social media, you can go to these big businesses like you couldn't go before and say, well, I reach 1,000 people every time right here. Okay, so Joe Blow, all-American town car dealer, wants to sell cars in that town. You can organize 1,000 people into one spot at one time. You can then show him on paper, hey, these are your 1,000 potential customers, and I have them right here. But I got to get them, and I got to pay my guys to get them. And that's what Vince is doing. Now, I'm not talking about Vince's product and his rating and all that. I'm talking about the business model. It's not about selling tickets. It's about selling a brand and selling the product more than once. So you get people through your ability to organize a bunch of warm bodies in one spot to help you pay to have that event. And you take that event and you sell that over and over and over and over again. You know, to say somebody in Cambodia who's 10 years old who just got the internet doesn't even know where Anytown America is, but they like Huckaby and they think he's cool, and they got $4 to spend on watching Huck because that's the only way they can see it. So the ticket sales is not the end-all, be-all anymore because we're able to reach everybody on a global basis. And I think that's where a lot of these promoters are making mistakes because they're just worried about selling them tickets, selling them seats. They don't even care about their post-market sales. Ooh. And they're limited because they don't understand technology. And they think, well, it can't be that easy. And if someone has a distribution center, then they've got to be screwing me over. No, it's because you can't work a smartphone and you don't realize it's not 1982 anymore.
Yeah, you're definitely
the whole industry as a whole basically has a different model, and people just aren't understanding it yet.
Well, you've done a great thing. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, man, you do everything and anything and stuff. And not only you now have a training center, or yeah. I don't know. What do we want to call it? Do we want to call it a developmental center? Are we going to steal WWE's title?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a performance center, but what we're doing is, and we're just finishing up. It's my company is World Fighting Showcase. We have built a 7,500 square foot arena. That's the size of a small armory in Newmarket, Tennessee. Newmarket is 5 miles from Carson Newman campus and 15 miles from Morristown and 25 miles from Knoxville. So it's very centrally located. But the one thing that we are offering at this training center is it's turnkey wrestling. We're guaranteeing you placement. We're going to teach you how to wrestle. We're going to teach you how to be a manager, a valet, the same old stuff that every other wrestling planet offers. But the difference is we're guaranteeing you we're going to give you a job, and not just a job where you're setting up a ring. You're going to still pay dues, but you're going to get paid to wrestle. Or let's say you're, I don't know, a 600-pound non-athletic kid who loves wrestling, wants to be a part of it. We're going to teach you how to book. We're going to teach you how to run a camera. We're going to teach you how to edit. We're going to teach you every skill.
That's something that I would talk to other promoters and other trainers and stuff about all the time because, you know, Brian, we've both seen these fly-by-night wrestlers. And if somebody gets offended right now, it's probably because you're this guy. Take, you know, Joe Blow's money, knowing that Joe Blow shouldn't be in the ring, knowing that he's never going to really make it as a professional wrestler. And I've told several promoters, like, look, everybody doesn't have to be that guy in the ring. You need referees. You need time. You need security. You need somebody to run the sound. sound and a light, somebody to take tickets and a concession. You need commentators. You need somebody to run the gear to the back. You need somebody to sit in gorilla and tell guys, hey, this is your segment. It's so good that you are showing guys that, hey, if you want to be in the wrestling business, you don't have to be a wrestler to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And in the past it was, well, I don't want to teach this guy because he may go across the street and he may run a business better than me. Well, yeah, he may sell more tickets than me, but here's the thing. Again, this is a different time period. If you've got $500,000 and you want to build a building like I did, and you want to set up across the street, more power to you. I don't do it, but I'll tell you how to do it. It's a magic formula. I mean, it's written in many history books how to do it. But that's the thing, is we have to teach the next generation. And here's something, and I've been saying this for about a year, and I get heat for it. If you notice, all of the original guys, like the Gold Dust Trio, Toots Mon, all the guys that invented wrestling came up with the next guys. They came up with the Mike McGurks and the Fritz Von Erichs and all those kind of guys. And then the next group was the group that came to age during the Vince expansion. And everybody left, like, say, the Mid-Atlantic and Florida area and went up to work for Vince in what we love now is the late 80s, early 90s. Mm-hmm. Well, now they're saying the next generation is terrible. Well, whose fault is that?
Oh my God, boy, I just got into it with a guy on Facebook about that. Go ahead, I'm sorry. I just got into it.
No, I mean, where is their next generation? See, Cornette groomed me to learn the business so that when I was done, I could go do what I'm doing. You know, Tom Pritchard taught me how to do all this. Where are all these guys? So if they're saying all these young kids are terrible, well, you know why they're terrible? Because where are these guys where are they doing these shows at? I mean, you know, they took all of Vince's money. You can't have a run forever. And they ran off, and then they either were broke down, physical, and couldn't do it, or they were completely nuts to begin with, or they spent all their money, and now they can't get booked anywhere. My
issue, Brian, was the fact, I hate to cut you off, I'm sorry. My issue was very similar to that. When you hear these older guys on social media talking about, oh, these young kids are disrespectful, they're spot month killing the business. And my question was, well, when was the last time you went to a wrestling show and talked to a promoter and said, hey, let me go backstage and help these guys put together matches. Let me agent your matches. Let me help these guys understand the business. It's like, no, you had your time, you made your money, and then you left. And now, myself included, we're doing the best that we can with what you left us.
Yeah, absolutely. We put several guys under contracts, legit contracts, and given them an opportunity so they can train, they can have the tools they need provided for them, and actually play on a level playing. And a lot of guys, I have one guy, and a lot of people said, yeah, we love this kid, but, man, his attitude sucks. Well, did you ever try to fix his attitude? Because I have went to these kids, and none of them have not wanted to learn. 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh, I never even thought of it that way. I'm glad you told me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you take
I find it hard to believe. I find it hard to believe that anybody goes through that curtain and goes, you know what, I want to have a shitty match.
I've done that once. I actually went out there and I literally went out there as a bet. Like Joe Black actually bet me that I couldn't have the worst match in the show if I tried. After we had previously saw a match in the show that was legitimately the drizzling shit. And I was like, and Joe said, I don't think anybody can have a worse match if they tried. And I looked at Joe and I was like, $20, I bet you I can. And he pulled out his phone, and I was like, it's over. So I literally went out there on purpose and stuck the joint up.
Well, you know, excluding that is, you know, these old-timers guys, and I love the old-timers. I'm not knocking the old. Hell, I am an old-timer. So I'm not knocking it. They are right in some of the things they're saying, but they're not giving a solution. So I'm of the personality of, yeah, let's point out what's wrong, but let's also try to fix it. Let's not just, you know, point out what's wrong and not fix it. They lead to believe that these kids are going to get in the car, drive 8 hours, have the attitude of, well, I'm going to have a shitty match, and then go out there and have a shitty match, and then laugh all the way home. I just find that hard to believe that anybody would dedicate that much time to shit. You know? And that's one of the things that we're trying to do. Like I had said with my contract guys, there's a lot of bad gear out there.
Yes.
And a lot of that is because, ring time, you can't afford it and all this. We're trying to help these guys and give them a level playing. So we're teaching them, David Anthony. We're outfitting him correct. And he's one of our top signees, a guy that we're really hopeful will pay off in the long run, and I believe he will. We're putting him in the right gear.
He's a good kid. I like him.
Very good kid, just wanting to learn and all that. But we're booking him at personal appearances, so we're providing him a suit to go to personal appearances.
Ooh.
And teaching him how you have meet and greet, because we don't want him being there in sweat. Not that there's anything wrong with sweats and rags, but if someone's coming in and paying $20 to have a meet and greet, you kind of want the person, like, okay, if I met Gene Simmons, I kind of want him wearing black and leather. I don't really want him wearing, like orange and vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want him to look like the guy he's supposed to look like. Well, some of these guys just can't afford it. So we're taking an interest in them. And people are going to say, oh, you're a mark, you're buying them stuff. No, if you go to McDonald's or Taco Bell or wherever you work, they provide you with a means to have a uniform that fits their corporate image. That's all we're doing. And we're showing all of these guys how you really do real business. Because no one really comes to mind, but I would say you could come up with 100 guys who have all the talent in the world that if Vince signed them tomorrow, day after tomorrow, they'd be fired because they're not prepared attitude.
Yes.
They don't know what it's like up there.
Something else I've realized that you're doing and stuff, along that same vein, is your production company, Three Crows Before Midnight. What is that all? Is that just your production company, your streaming service? Do you have a lot of training and stuff working that as well?
Yeah, let me break that down. It's 3crowsentertainment.com, the number 3, crowsentertainment.com. The actual company is Three Crows Before Midnight. And what that is a fully functioning production house. We film a lot of wrestling, but we do documentaries. There's some horror movies on the slate that I've been talking about for years that we'll get to eventually.
But it is right? You gonna put me in a movie?
Yeah. We're gonna put you in a movie. We're gonna put the South will rise and feet.
Oh, the South.
Meanwhile, somewhere all the brothers are like, "Fuck him. We're never working with him again."
Exactly.
But anyway, so we have that. We have all the equipment. We have all the stuff that everybody in the industry uses on a regular basis. But our streaming channel is WrestleRewind.com, and it is a mixture of old school wrestling, classic stuff that Vince does not own, but we have the rights to, along with new independent stuff. Companies like Evolution, RWFS, Livewire, that's starting up next year, Supreme Championship Wrestling. And so it's a good mixture, but we not only do just wrestling matches, we do vignettes. We teach these kids how to act, how to go in front of a camera and all that. And then our live performance, which is the Performance Center, is the World Fighting Showcase We Fight Strong. That's WeFightStrong.com. And what is different between me and everybody else, we do everything in-house. So we do we write it, we book the building, we get the talent, we make sure you look right, we book the personal appearances, we film it, we edit it, we distribute it. And also Wrestle Rewind is available on Amazon Player. So if you have one of those accounts, you can get that and it goes worldwide. So we have legit worldwide distribution. I know a lot of people say, well, YouTube's worldwide. Yeah, it is, but there's a difference.
If you're wrestling right now, you're not making any money off of YouTube. You're just using YouTube as free advertising.
None. I realized when I started Three Crows in 2013 that the number one problem was television. That television cost too much, and then lo and behold, they invented the streaming service in between that, and it was a godsend for me because it now gives me the same power as a local TV station. I can distribute my stuff just like a WAY or a WTNZ or whatever your local station. So that's the difference of what we offer versus everybody else, and it's not one of those you don't know how, I'm sure you're familiar with. Can I get a copy of my match? Well, Joe Blow said he was going to tape it, but he never got to edit it because Joe Blow's wife's a bitch and blah, 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 and that footage is lost forever. We have a 5-day turnout. So let's take ZombieCon, for instance. We wrote it, had it, filmed it, did it. 5 days later, it's available online. That quick. The product's out. And that's what we're bringing to the table versus everybody else. And hopefully we can teach some kids along the way and educate the masses of how the industry is.
Well, it seems like, it almost seems like with the performance that you have between We Fight Strong and Three Crows Entertainment, that you're very you're patting yourself after, I guess, for lack of a better phrase, the New Japan dojo system, where they teach the guys everything about the wrestling business, how to dress, how to speak to people, how to act when they're in public, going to the right gear makers, because we both know there's some shitty gear makers out there.
Yep.
And then sending them out, making sure they actually, and the key phrase that you used there was making sure they had a job and not just a book.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Let's say, my first contract trained for until they let you go, which in my case was 9 months, every day of getting your ass beat. So if you're going to a school and you've trained 4 times, you got trained wrong. Because it took me 9 months as fast as I could to learn this. But then after that, I was signed up and I had 17, which is weird that it was an odd number. I was guaranteed 17 matches on TV and then so many house shows. And then I got paid. Well, how many times seen these guys go through a school and they think they're slaves and they're indentured servitude for years?
I did.
Not getting paid. How dare you go? You've been here 5 years and we've never gave you a match, but how dare you go over to my competitor's place and actually wrestle where they want you to wrestle? I mean, that doesn't make any sense.
It was 2 years before I got paid in this business, before I got my first payout. 2 years.
Well, and then the promoter's argument would be, well, we just can't afford it. Well, okay, if you can't afford it, I get that, but then you're doing something wrong. Because if you can't have the guys paid, and I'm not saying you got to pay them thousands of dollars, but pay them to where they're happy. Because you're selling a product where the person has to go out there and portray a character at most with 4 other people in the ring or 5 other people in the ring. And you expect people to come back and give you money based on their performance and you want them to perform unhappy? It doesn't make any sense. It's like, okay, imagine going to McDonald's and McDonald's said, not only do you have to work here, but you can't get a penny until you sell 1,000 cheeseburgers. At 1,000 cheeseburgers, I'm going to give you a penny. And don't you dare go to Burger King and work, because I'll make sure you never work in fast food again. People would think that was absolutely ludicrous. But somehow in independent wrestling, that's acceptable.
Oh, man, I've never thought about it like that, Brian.
But that's exactly how it is.
I'm going to steal that, if you don't mind. I'm going to steal that one day.
Sure. Sure.
Well, Brian, I know. Go ahead.
Now, I can say all this stuff because I'm confident somebody will hire me, and if they do hire me, I'll put enough butt seats or film enough stuff. I'll make some of these other guys who are going to have a problem with what I'm saying are going to say that because it makes them feel a little uncomfortable because I'm messing up their system.
That's the entire system. That's the entire system of independent wrestling right now. It's what can you? It's like, hey, be happy what I'm giving you the little bit that I'm giving. Don't complain.
Yeah. Well, now, do I think guys need to come in and say, hey, I just drove 5 hours from Chattanooga and I demand $150? No, I don't think that. I think that's crazy because they haven't shown their worth. But I think if someone is there and show their worth and it's undeniable, then you need to pay them what they're worth. Now, that promoter can figure out what each person's worth. But, and again, I realize you give the boys an inch, they're going to take 10 miles. Luckily, I don't have to deal with that because most of my guys got. But, there's a lot of room for improvement in the model of independent wrestling. And I think that's what's keeping some of these promotions going to another level. It's just crookery. They just, they'd rather ground a dime to try to make a quarter, and they never even get a quarter.
Exactly. Well, bro, I know we're starting to run along. We're getting on that 1 hour mark, and you're such a busy guy doing everything and anything. I want to go ahead and start wrapping it up right now. So you have the We Fight Strong You have a show coming up very soon. You want to give us details of what's going on over there at We Fight Strong?
Yes. WeFightStrong.com is the website. Again, we have We Fight Strong on YouTube, and then also you can see all the complete shows on WrestleRewind.com. On November 10th, we will be in Dandridge, Tennessee at the Field of Dreams Community Center. Bell time is 7:30, and that event is completely free to the public. Anybody that wants to come for free. And what we're going to do that night is we're going to have a tournament, an 8-man tournament to crown our American heavyweight champion, and you will be challenging, the Incredible Huck will be challenging David Anthony for the WFS TV champion. And if you aren't caught up with the history of the TV belt, go to WrestleRewind.com and you can see all of that and be caught up. But we want anybody and everybody to come out to that event. It's a soft opening while we're waiting for our building to be completed. They're working on the interior walls now. So we're going to do the Field of Dreams until then, but that's a big night. Everybody, every fan that comes through the door that night will receive a free autograph post, and they're really nice. They're not Xerox copies. They're actual really nice
actual posters. No, not the bullshit. Somebody went down to Staples and popped 10 cents in the copy machine.
Yeah, these are the real deal. So not only is it a event, but you'll get a free poster every person that walks through the door, and David Anthony will personally sign every poster from every person that walks through the door himself at a free meet and greet. So if you're anywhere near Dandridge, Tennessee, which is 26 miles from Knoxville, it's 15 miles from Morristown. Again, it's the Field of Dreams Activity Center. All this info at WeFightStrong.com. Then come on out. We want to meet you. We want you to enjoy a good night of professional wrestling and see our product.
Now, Brian, I can't let you go. I told my producer how great of a storyteller you are, and I told the fans how great of a storyteller you are. I need one great story. You gotta give me one before you leave. You gotta give me one amazing story, whether it's a road trip, whether it was in a match, something. You gotta give me just one great Brian Logan.
Gosh. Okay. Well, me and Bo James are out in the Midwest, and we are doing a fair shot for Harley Race. And anybody that knows the Midwest, there's a lot of cornfields out there. So me and Bo James have been traveling for, 10 years, married to each other pretty much, do everything about each other. So we're driving through Nebraska, and we just ran out of things to talk about. So we're just listening to the radio, just driving down the road. All of a sudden, he reaches over and squeezes my knee. You know how you can goose somebody on your knee?
Uh-huh.
So it scares the shit out of me, and I jump. And when I jump, I hit my head on the top of the car, and it almost knocks me out. So the car shoots off the road into this cornfield, and all you're seeing is this corn hit. Just corn hitting. And I'm trying to get the car slowed down, but I don't want to flip the car. And finally, I get it stopped in the middle of this poor farmer's cornfield. We're just covered, 200-300 yards from the interstate at this point. And I looked over at him and I said, "What the hell did you do that for?" He goes, "Well, that'll teach you to stop talking to me." So I never shut up. Anytime I'm in a car now with Bo J, I talk from the moment I get in the car till I get out because I'm scared to death he's going to wreck and kill us. So there. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but that's a story.
That's good. I'm sorry. Well, look, hey, one more time for all my fans and listeners and stuff. Go ahead and give out all your social media, where they can find you, where they can find We Fight Strong, Three Crows, and Wrestle Rewind. Go ahead and give out all that information one more time.
Okay, my personal Twitter is Logan's World Bri on Twitter, but also WFS Nation 1 on Twitter, Three Crows ENT with the number 3 on Twitter. Also, like Wrestle Rewind on Facebook. We do a lot of free videos there, and World Fighting Showcase on Facebook. And, of course, for any live events, WeFightStrong.com, as well as for great wrestling footage, past, present, and great stuff we're going to be adding. That is WrestleRewind.com, $4.99 a month. It is well worth it. And the difference between us and them is we have an actual forum in there where the fans can talk to themselves, or talk to each other. So they can, it's not just watching great matches. You can connect with other fans, discuss what's going on in the matches, what you like, what you don't like. So the connectivity and the interaction is there. That's WrestleRewind.com. And, of course, the production house, if you need any production done for your event, Three Crows Entertainment with the number 3, actually a number, threecrowsentertainment.com.
Well, thank you, Brian, so much. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show, man. This was such a fucking pleasure. You have no idea.
Oh, thank you for having me. Once again, man, and I love one of my favorite people in the whole wide world.
That's because you can make racist jokes around. It's okay.
I do. But you make them right back. I mean, I'm the most racist, non-racist person in the world. I just dislike everybody. So It's funny. I like that you hand it right back to me.
Well, yes, I will see you on the 10th. I'll probably see you before then. Hopefully I'll see you before then. But if not, I'll definitely see you on the 10th. All right?
All right, brother.
All right. Take care. Yes, sir. You have a good night as well. Bye-bye.
You too. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Oh, man. Such a great interview. Like I said, I wish Mika could have been here, but she wasn't here, but I'm so glad she was. Sometimes it's just good to have a one-on-one talk with my friends that are in this crazy business and record it for your enjoyment. CW, I know you're listening. You got any comments?
Reason I've already been saying or things that I've already done
you feel vindicated?
Yes, I do.
Well, there you go. It's great interview. Thank you once again to Brian Logan. If you haven't already, because we mentioned it several times during the show, check out We Fight Strong. That's WeFightStrong.com. Check out Three Crows Entertainment. Check out Russell Rewind. And if you're in the Dandridge, Tennessee area, check out the show. Free show, November 10th. I'll be challenging David Anthony for the WFS title. So, add another title to my collection. I'm all about that gold, baby. Anyway, that's the show, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh man, we still got next week's a great show. Oh, if you love the last 2 weeks, you love last week's show, if you love this week's show, next week's going to be crazy. Once again, independent star Jamie Senegal will be on the show. I'm a huge fan of Jamie Senegal. Was so excited when he agreed to be a guest on the show. Mika will be back right here, same bat time, same bat channel. So once again, huge thank you to Angry Marks Podcast. Shout out to all our sponsors, Indie Custom, Behavior Driven, Pro Wrestling World. Huge thank you to our guest, Brian Logan, and everybody over there at We Fight Strong, Wrestle Rewind, and at Three Crows Entertainment. On behalf of my co-host, Mika Villas, on behalf of my producer, C.W. Smith, on behalf of the Angry Marks Podcast Network, I am your AIWF World Heavyweight Champion, your World Wrestling Grand Prix Champion, your National Syndicate Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, the disrespectful intellectual, the Southern Gentleman, the Mid-Atlantic Bully, the national icon and reality TV star, the Morning Star, the Incredible Hulk, Will Huckaby, saying peace out and support indie wrestling.